WrestleTalk.
It seems that Bryan Danielson is on a final countdown.
Oh, absolutely spectacular. Stand, please. Everybody clap. Everybody clap. See what he did there? Very good.
Because he sort of announced a retirement on this episode of Collision.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So yeah, welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast. Please do press the subscribe button if this is your first time here, and give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave your comment down below if you're watching this on demand, because I am Luke Owen, DAD. I'm joined by your Jam That Champion, the truth, the professor, Dan Layton, the influencer, Dan Layton.
I hate that. This is my first. This is our first Collision since my retention at All Out, so I wanted to show off. I've still got it.
Well done, you, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I mean, it's no easy feat to retain against Tempest
On a show like All Out.
Yeah,
certainly
absolutely.
not.
So
But I managed it.
Well done, you.
Skin of my teeth.
So, come on, Colliders, let's get on board the Dan train. We're going to be reviewing AEW Collision, but if you are watching live, please do get in your can't really call them no mega chats anymore.
Well, I mean,
because
Kenny still hasn't been on there, so and
True.
they can't be CMDMs, so that was our alternative.
Yeah.
So
we need a new name, everyone.
Should we have them just be UltraChats for a while?
For now,
Yeah.
we'll call them UltraChats for the time being until we can get a good joke in.
There you go.
I'm
Another thing to fall down by the wayside
Yeah.
in the past couple of weeks.
I'm looking at you, live chat. So yeah, please do get in your comments down below and your live chats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them above the $5 amount. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we will have no Streamlabs issues.
Oh, have there been Streamlabs aplenty?
Well, yeah. I mean, we had the period of time where Streamlabs lost everyone's username.
That wasn't
or
fun.
wasn't displaying
Yeah.
usernames properly. And then last week we had issues where it wasn't accepting PayPal. It was only accepting credit cards, and that meant that people can send chats in.
Yeah.
So hopefully they fixed some of their issues now.
You'd hope. We certainly have chats in already, so
Yes,
you know,
let's hope.
fingers crossed.
But we are going to talk about Ricky chats. We are going to talk about this segment with Danielson.
Yes.
So Danielson came out with a recap of the strap match, and in this, he said that he wanted a match at WrestleDream against Zack Sabre Jr.
Which
Did you see Zach's response?
I did not.
Oh, it was great. So he cut a promo after a New Japan show.
Great.
It was just about bloody time.
Love
you
that.
keep talking about how you're the best technical wrestler in the world, but I surpassed you years ago, dickhead.
Lovely. I love him.
I cannot wait for that match. I love Zach so much.
Yeah.
So yes, that was really, really cool. And the crowd were like, "Oh!" when they and later on they confirmed that match was happening. And he also had the segment with Ricky Starks, who came out with Big Bill, and it felt like Danielson was about to offer him a spot in the Combat Club.
Certainly the implication.
Because he was like, if you want to ride with us, you got to bleed with us. And it was about to say, you bled with us. But Big Bill just booted Danielson, almost as if, I'm not losing my meal ticket in Ricky.
Yeah.
So booted him down, and Ricky kind of pulled him off, was like, what are you doing? And then he also laid into Danielson as well. And he choked Danielson out with the T-shirt. Mox ran down to make the save, but Big Bill took him out as well to set up their International Championship match on Wednesday. But yeah, it was absolutely battered him. And stood tall, and he choked him out with his own T-shirt, with the Blackpool Combat Club
Which
T-shirt.
gave shades of both the match at All Out and Justin Roberts.
Exactly. So should we talk about those bits first? Those two bits. We'll talk about the Zach thing and the Ricky thing.
And
then we'll talk about the start of his promo.
So I was kind of a little bit first of all, I just think Ricky Starks continues to get better. Every single week I think he really delivered. And I felt, it was a difficult couple of weeks with the Punk news and all that stuff going on. And you had to feel for Ricky Starks because he was in the middle of a program that was really, laying things out on a platter for him, and he was taking his opportunities. So many times you get handed these opportunities and you don't make them count, and he has been. So then that match at All Out for me was my match of the night, one of my match of the years. It was absolutely matches of the year. It was absolutely spectacular, and a large part of that was the finish. I was a little bit when Danielson was holding out the shirt for Ricky, I was a little bit I guess that's interesting, but I don't want this for you. Because for me, it would have felt like stilting his progress. And now, on the one hand, you're with some of the biggest names in the company. On the other hand, you're you could be Wheeler Yuta. Like, you know.
Yeah, but it was the whole point of the Combat Club when they launched it was supposed to be for these young kids. It was, you know, and they like said names like Yuta and Garcia and sort of like Ricky is kind of lumped in with those, like these young kids who are hungry for an opportunity, and we can cultivate you within the club. But I agree on that note of like, when it was like, you know, Ricky, I was kind of like, if only because I thought it might be Orange Cassidy.
Oh, yeah.
Because after the Cassidy main event with Moxley, I said to Ollie on the All Out review, I was like, oh man, it would be so cool if like on Dynamite, they're offering him a spot in the Blackpool Combat Club because he's bled with them now and he like withstood so much. And I was like, and wouldn't that be like fascinating, trying to lure him away from Best Friends, this comedy group, into the Combat Club,
and as an evolution of his work that has already been great.
And Wheeler Yuta is in that group, who was also formerly of Best Friends, like as a way to sort of continue that program. I think there's more mileage in Cassidy being that guy. But this segment did work for me with Ricky because you had the Big Bill sort of like swerve in there,
because I like the Big Bill and Ricky pairing, you know. So I was like, I also don't want them to, because it feels like it is doing, you know, you said meal ticket, but it is doing that for Big Bill. It's giving him a little purpose. It's giving him a little time to share the spotlight with Ricky Starks, not detracting from it, but, you know, blooming in the spotlight kind of thing. So I really like that pairing, and I was like, you know, I'd like to have them continue, and so it worked for me in the end. Then Big Bill cuts a little promo later on Mox. So the story between the teams, I suppose, continues. There was a little effective little segment. I think they really need to capitalize on Ricky Starks, because I think he has shown over the past month and a half on Collision, but also in that match with Danielson, he has what it takes. That match thrown together with like kind of zero heat, let's be honest, until, you know, the moment of announcing it was Danielson was cool, but we've never really seen this as a prospect. You put Bryan Danielson in a match last minute, 24 hours, it's going to deliver, but that's because he's Bryan Danielson.
Because he's Bryan Danielson.
And he's magic.
Yeah.
So Ricky I felt met the moment, crucially.
That's the key to it there, because there's every chance that Ricky could have really stumbled with Punk being gone, because this was a Punk program. Like, this is the whole point, was it was supposed to be Ricky versus Punk All Out before, you know, Brawl In and stuff. So it could have just been a case of Ricky is a victim of Punk's firing, and he doesn't, then we can't capitalize on all the great work that Ricky has been doing for the last few weeks, but bang, straight in there with a feud with Danielson. And it's like, okay, well, what better way to kind of like keep that ball going is to put you straight into a feud with Danielson.
And when you think about it, we haven't seen a feud of them. It feels like there was a big blowout final match with that incredible moment, but that was the first.
It's the start of a feud. Like, because there wasn't a feud going into All Out, but like, much like my GM mode, you do the match and that starts a rivalry.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I really, really like that. And as I said, the Zack Sabre Jr. match is muy bueno to me.
Yeah.
It's a match that people thought they might do it all in, because it's, you know, Zack is a mainstay of the British independent wrestling scene. But actually, it was only being Ospreay was the guy.
It's a little shame that he wasn't involved in the show in some way. That said, now knowing they're doing it yearly, he's got opportunities.
He's got opportunities to do it there. And like, it makes sense to do it, you know, because there was always the argument of like, well, he's not an AEW guy, which I don't really get. But this is a AEW New Japan co-pro show. So it makes sense to do Wrestle Dream, the match between the dream match that of Danielson and Zack, that we were supposed to get at Forbidden Door last year, and then Danielson's injury unfortunately took that away from us. And that's how Claudio came, and it was Claudio and Zack in the end. I am so excited for this. I was on the stance of I wouldn't do Danielson versus Zack at All In anyway. It's too much of a technical match, and if you're
for a stadium that big,
if you're in the nosebleeds, you ain't seeing the intricacies of what they're going to do. And I think that's where you want to, like, I remember Brian and Finney reviewing the Cruiserweight Classic, which Zack was a part of. It's mad to think that Zack was part of a WWE tournament.
2016.
As was Kota Ibushi.
Yeah.
Like Zack and Kota. And the whole tournament was supposed to be built around them. The final two was supposed to be Kota and Zack, with the idea that they'll come here and then they'll want to sign. And then when they offered them contracts, they were like, oh no, I don't want to sign here. I just thought this would be a fun thing to do.
Opportunity.
So they knocked them out in the semis, and it was, and there was the people
TJP and
TJP.
It was TJP and Ibushi, wasn't it?
No, Ibushi got knocked out in the semis.
He didn't get to the final.
No.
I
can't remember who it was now. Like Grand Metalik or something.
I'm gonna find out what he.
And then they were just like, yeah, it's I get TJP, I guess. But it was not supposed to be either of those guys. But when Bryan and Vinny were reviewing the Cruiserweight Classic, Vinny made this point of that Lucha Libre is the whole idea of doing... It was Grand Metalik.
Yeah,
I was right.
It was Grand Metalik knocked out Zach.
Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Well done, you.
Survival series, finally.
Where's
that one, Tempest? I could at least do the first 4.
Oh, name every winner of the Cruiserweight Classic in reverse chronological order.
Or just like name every person in the first Cruiserweight Classic.
Yeah. Cedric, Grand Metalik, TJP, Zach, Ibushi.
Yeah.
Gargano, Ciampa.
Yeah.
Kendrick.
Yeah.
Barbara Streisand. Chaka Khan.
Mecha Streisand.
Yeah. Pass.
But anywho, so Bryan and Vinny reviews. He was talking about in Lucha Libre how the idea of Lucha Libre is it's supposed to be like an illusion. You're supposed to do things as quickly as possible.
Tajiri was in it.
Yep, there's one.
Carry on.
You're supposed to do it as quickly as possible so the audience don't see the transitions and stuff.
Yes.
But British wrestling is to do the transitions as slow as possible to show the audience this is what I am doing, and that's the difference between the two styles. And Bryan and Vinny was like, I've now get it with Zach because I've never really gotten it before.
And on the Cruiserweight Classic, it definitely did feel like a different. It felt to the point where people were a bit confused by it.
Yeah,
you know,
Mustafa Ali was in the tournament. Buddy Matthews.
So, Kenneth Johnson, Akira Tozawa, Jack Gallagher, Fabian
Eichner.
Former of Imperium. Tajiri.
Still in Imperium. It's Gino Vana Vinci.
What? Yeah, it is. My apologies. Tajiri, Damian Slater, Alejandro Sayas.
Damian Slater?
Yeah, Damian Slater. Grand Metalik, Half Sierra, so one of the
Bollywood boys.
Drew Gulak, Zack Sabre Jr., Tyson Dux, Noam Dar, Gurv Shearer, so the other... Bollywood boy. Arya Davari.
Tony Nese in there, yeah.
Ho Ho Lun.
Crikey.
Raul Mendoza, Brian Kendrick, Tony Bennett, Tony Nese, Kota Ibushi, Sean Maluta, Cedric Alexander, Clement Petois, TJ Perkins, Damac, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Mustafa Ali, Lindsay Dorado, Rich Swann, and Jason Lee. There you go. What a lineup, hey?
What a tournament.
Yeah.
The tournament was awesome.
And the Mae Young Classics were as well. That was a really fun time.
Really fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Anyway. And this will be a really fun time. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson. There's a little... I've always wanted to go to Seattle. Do you reckon I could expense it?
Oh, you could probably do it as you can tax deduct that, right?
If you go for work. In theory, I'm self-employed, as long as I can justify it.
Yeah, if you come back and review the show the following day.
I could do it. I could do it remote.
We're not doing remote. We're not doing remote
not
podcast. They're not the pandemic era anymore. But anyway, the whole thing we wanted to start this topic off with, and the whole big, our title and our thumbnail here is, at the start of this promo, Danielson said, I told my little girl, Birdie, that when she turned 7, I would stop wrestling. And she's just turned 6. And the crowd booed a child.
Yeah, way to make Birdie the biggest heel in the company, Brian.
The crowd booed a 6-year-old.
Right. And I would always boo a 6-year-old. I don't want anything to do with it.
Not like this one.
Could you imagine one day we're going to get Birdie versus... Birdie Danielson versus daughter Gable. I don't know what her name is, but that would have been that's going to be a map. You just wait and see.
So yeah,
there's your baby face right there.
Yeah, so they booed a child because what Danielson effectively said was, "This is my final year."
Yeah,
in so many words, and I don't know if I'm ready for my final year of Danielson. In the same way that I wasn't ready for him to retire when he retired due to the injuries, like I wasn't ready to give up to have Danielson taken away from me. I'm not ready to have Danielson taken away from me again. I don't, even with a year in mind, I still think in a year's time, I'm not going to be mentally ready for this.
Well, it's interesting because there's like two sides of the coin, right? One of which is we do exist in a world where, like, sure, kayfabe is dead, but he could be working as brother. Like, it's, this could just be a storyline. So he may not be retiring in a year's time. But there's also the world where it's like we're seeing it at the moment with Edge and with Danielson, especially these are two examples of it. I guess Saraya to an extent. People who were told their careers were over, Christian is another one, who are having a second wind. And it's almost like I think that having that thing taken away from you and then getting it back almost makes you more grateful for it.
Yeah.
And like so few people get that opportunity that I know that we have this whole thing of like, can you take Edge at his word? Can you take Edge at his word? There is a little part of me that's like, I actually could see you bowing out because, it wasn't a WrestleMania finale and it wasn't a World Heavyweight title run, but you got to come back into the ring. You had some amazing moments, and very few people get to finish on their terms in a well-received match like that in their hometown where they're kind of lionized. And if you were realizing that your body is kind of up against it and you want to tap out and say, I've had a great career, I'm really grateful for my time to go back. And, people are far more... We have a person on the show whose body I continue to be worried for, in Darby Allin. People are very aware of the time they've got left, and especially when you're a father, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely. The concussion he had last year, he had a broken arm this year as well. Like when you wrestle at such a high level that Danielson has done for his career, there has to be a moment when you have to say enough is enough. And
not everyone can be Chris Jericho and evolve and keep going until they're 50, 60. I don't actually know how old Jericho is these days, but sometimes people are like, that's enough is enough, as you say. And maybe in this case, Danielson is like, my daughter's at an age where she's really starting to become a little person, and my family is really important to me. We know his family is important to him.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah.
He's a very, very smart dude.
So there's something about him saying, I'm giving you a year, which allows for an incredible amount of storytelling, if you want to go down that road. A lot of opportunities for... Let's pack him in before it's too late. Let's get your Zack Sabre Jr. match. Let's get another run with a title. Is he going to make it as an international champion? Is he going to make it as a tag champion? A trios champion with a Blackpool Combat Club? Who knows? Does he get a title run at all? Does he try and fail? Who is going to be his final opponent? It gives us a year to, like you say, prepare for him going off into that good night, to use his phrase from the poem.
There was... But me and Tempest were talking about this the other day on the WrestleTalk mailbag, which goes out for our Patreon backers, that All In next year is going to struggle more than All In did this year.
Yeah.
Because this year's All In was about the history. It's the first show in Wembley Stadium in 30 years. It's AEW's first shows in the UK. You want to be part of the biggest event in wrestling history. So people were buying tickets off the hype of that. Now, there's a very good school of logic that you should be able to convert some of those back into secondary purchases, return purchases, but also because the hype was so big, you bring in new people to it. But even then, you are still going to struggle to get to that 8-1 mark. And the question we had was, can they better what they did this year? And I still think the answer is no.
As in better number-wise?
Number-wise, yeah.
Which, by the way, there is a pressure off. Because you've done it. You don't need to outdo yourself.
No, you don't.
Michael Jackson always used to say that he did so well with Thriller that he never felt the need to sort of better it kind of thing. It's like, I can't better Thriller, so I'll just make another great album.
Even though he did with Bad.
Well, this is it. So but instead of trying to be like, how do I make Thriller 2? I'll just make another album. Yeah. It's the same thing with All In. It's like, if this year, you don't have to try and beat 81,000, so you can kind of do your own different thing.
But I think if you don't do it, there will be the detractor to be like, well, you couldn't do it a second time around. But
if you go down to 60,000, that's still an incredible achievement.
It's still an incredible achievement.
Yes.
But it is going to be a marked difference of you had 20,000 people buy tickets more than you didn't convert those 20,000. But the point I was going to get to was, you announce that it's Danielson Omega, and that's Danielson's final match.
Oh, God. And the final countdown at Wembley and the fireworks. Bloody hell. Tell me you don't want to be there for that.
That's, and that time-wise is going to match up.
Yeah.
That is a way to sell out Wembley Stadium for a second year running. You're really going to struggle for the third year then, because how do you top Danielson Omega 2 with Danielson's final ever match? But that is...
All In the final countdown.
Yeah. That is a way that you could sell out Wembley Stadium.
Absolutely could. That's so interesting. Would he want to go out in London is the question.
But it's a case of, do you want to go in London, or do you want to go in front of the biggest
6,000 people in
80,000 people. Yeah, 6,000 people in Seattle or 80,000 people in Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, Danielson Omega 2 was supposed to be one of the main events we had at All In this year.
Oh, that's true.
Because before Danielson's injury, so you've got to imagine that Tony Khan's keeping that in his back pocket in the same way that he's been keeping Danielson and Zack in his back pocket for the past 18 months.
Play power card.
Play your power card. Now's the time to do it. And you announced that in advance. You announced that the same day you put tickets out on sale. Because this year they sold 70,000 tickets without announcing a single match. You announced that it's Danielson Omega 2 as the tickets go on sale. probably do all right.
I think so.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as well, the stories that go along that. Right? So like he mentioned, so there's two things that I'm kind of interested in. One of them is just a funny bit. And the other one is a genuine like question that I have and a discussion topic. Have you spotted something? Sometimes you look over at the chat and I'm like, oh, he's found something.
No, it's just people arguing about Michael Jackson albums.
Oh, thrilling. Okay, great.
Or Thriller.
Dangerous, underrated. Now, the one that is kind of a bit funny, he had this line of "I am Odysseus," right? And he gave this hand, the whole, strap me to the mast and I'll take on the sirens and I'll fight the Cyclops and all that stuff. Which is, I mean, I'm a sucker for ancient Greek mythology and imagery like that. And this in something that will shock no one. I studied classics at school, and so I read the Odyssey, and it's a fantastic. I mean, it's kind of boring in class, but like if you read it anyway, it's a fantastic, parallel to have the idea that he's facing these trials to find his way home to his family, like to find his way home to Bree and Birdie, and they have another one.
They do have a second child, yes,
and child B. So like that's a great little visual. So then I was just going and checking the story. It's another B.
It is another B. Oh, is like his name?
Between this and the Cruiserweight Classic. We're really rinsing Wikipedia today. Personal life. Buddy. Birdie and Buddy. That's not confusing. Buddy.
Jamie Oliver's kids is called Buddy as
Buddy
well.
Rocket. He's got a lot of interesting names as Jamie Oliver's kids. No shade. But yeah, so I was reading the story of refreshing my mind on how it ended, or specifically how did Odysseus's life end. And there's a few different ones. One of them I wrote down just purely because I'm like, great. In one telling of Odysseus's story, he's turned into a horse by Athena. So tell me you don't want to watch that.
Whoa. Ring of Honor World Women's Champion.
Exactly. Athena comes in, she turns him into a horse, job done.
Turn him into a goat, surely.
Oh, turn him into the goat. His final match is with Athena. I want to see it. But then the actual interesting thing that I was really struck by when I was thinking about this is the heel face alignments of the Blackpool Combat Club. Because obviously, we were in Ohio, so John Moxley is a hometown boy. So he was getting the hometown pop this week. Danielson is Bryan Danielson. And on his retirement leg, you ain't selling him as a heel to anybody. Then you've got Claudio, who is a heel. And also Wheeler Yuta is there. So, like, he's just Wheeler. Like, he's just Yuta.
Oh, I know. I think Wheeler's doing great work.
Yeah, but I don't know that he's like...
He is a heel.
But I mean,
he's using the seatbelt move.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is he over? I don't know.
I think so.
Okay. Well, each their own. But point being, what do you do with Danielson in the Combat Club? I think there's been a little. He was very, very heel the whole way through, really, in this run against the Elite. He was acting in that way. But stepping into the breach to defend the American Dragon is a babyface move. So to defend Rick the Dragon Steamboat.
In the same way, I think Danielson has made this point a number of times. He was a babyface during the MJF feud earlier this year, and like even did the Daniel Bryan yes thing towards the end of the match when it went into overtime, and he then had his heel run when he went back when he was doing stuff with the Combat Club, and people were like, "It's a heel turn," and he said, "I never turned babyface."
Right.
Like I've always come out of the heel tunnel. Like when they had the separate tunnels and stuff, it's like I've always come out of the heel tunnel.
Yeah.
In his mind, it's just the Combat Club are heels, but he's also Bryan Danielson.
Right.
He is one of the few examples where shades of grey is a legit thing. He is not a heel or a babyface. He's Bryan Danielson. And I think Mox is the same way. Like John Moxley is John Moxley. He is neither heel nor is he face. He is John Moxley. Claudio is a heel. Like, I don't think it stretches to every member of the Combat Club. I think Wheeler Yuta is a heel. But those two, I think, can be. They are both in the same.
I don't know if I agree on Mox. I can see why you would make that argument. For me, I don't see his character or the presentation of it. And it is that thing, by the way. MJF has done it where the character sort of stays here and it just pivots slightly to the left and the right of the dial. And I think Mox does that as well. In face or heel, he kind of pivots ever so slightly. But I think it's safe to say that MJF is a babyface at this point.
It feels like it, yeah.
Right. So I would say Mox is a heel. Like, rather than it being he could be either. I personally, in my liking of wrestling, I like my I like the shades of grey, but I like it to be more clear than just, oh, we need you to serve this purpose, so right now you're going to lean babyface. I want it to be like, this is what we're doing.
No, I agree with that, and I've banged that drum a lot on this podcast over the years. When people use the terms like, oh, they're shades of grey, it's usually just more like, I don't know, like we're using them to facilitate a role. Because Triple H used to say this about like the Attitude Era. It's like everyone, Vince Russo coined the term. It's like everyone is shades of grey. Austin was shades of grey. But really, it was just like, no, he was Steve Austin. Triple H was either a heel or a babyface. He was never shades of grey.
Yeah.
Jericho was either a heel or a babyface. He was never shades of grey. But there are certain wrestlers I do think can straddle the line. Austin was certainly one of them. The Rock wasn't. The Rock was a guy who was either you are a babyface or you are a heel. Moxley, for me, in this AEW run, has been shades of grey.
Okay.
Where he has been both babyface and as heel, but has never not been Jon Moxley. And I think it's the same with Danielson as well. But I feel like they're the only two.
Yeah.
MJF is a babyface or he's a heel.
Okay. Interesting.
That's where I stand on it. Because I like my babyface, I like my good guys, I like my bad guys.
Yeah.
But I think there are some people who can just be them.
I think, especially if it's your final year, I want a full throttle commitment to the character and the performance. And that, for me, is on the story. That's not a Danielson thing, because like we said earlier on, Danielson's magic. You can put him in anything and it'll make it work. But it's that thing of like, I want to know why you're behaving the way you are on a storyline basis. I want you have set the goalpost. It's almost like from Wrestle Dream through to, let's say, All In next year. That's an entire year. And what Tony Khan as a booker did so successfully in the first couple of years of AEW was have them planned out. The first 4 champions were planned out. It's a very famous sort of thing. And then he started booking slightly on the fly. You sign a new mega star in the name of CM Punk, and then you have to sort of change your adapt. Yeah, and he's not necessarily, to my mind, as a critic and an analyst or whatever, not really shown an aptitude with that kind of like riding the wave or whatever.
I agree.
So I'm hoping that he can use his forward planning which he clearly is good at, to drive a Danielson storyline to be the most cathartic thing, so that when the time comes, we are sad to say goodbye, but we don't feel like what could have been. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, let's see what you make of this in what is being dubbed the Stark's Remarks, which is a bit of fun. Get your Stark remarks in to WrestleTalk.com/support.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's stupid.
Kevin kicks things off to say, hello and welcome to a new episode of our show, Kids Ruin Everything, with our co-host Dan Layton. Today we'll talk about Bryan Danielson's retirement because of his daughter. We'll then check our special correspondent Luke Owen to see how much he cried.
Kids are scum. I've been saying it.
Andy Sandbox said, the final countdown of Bryan Danielson is so good, Luke. I'm not sure if he'll... Sorry, I'll try that again, put my teeth in. Unsure if he'll never be fully done with wrestling, but it's exciting to think what he can do with creative control and his destiny in his own hands. With Bryan a focus, Collision is must-see. Thinking about the past between Bryan and Big Bill, there are interesting plot hooks still in a program between all the parties that I hope we can explore over the next few weeks. I hope Big Bill is elevated in the end because he's ready for something big.
Oh, I see what you did there.
I'd forgotten about that, of course.
I don't know what it is.
Well, so that was... when he was Big Cass, that was his final feud in WWE.
Was it?
Because it was him versus Bryan,
yeah,
with the gimmick that I am tall and you are small. And that was the story. And his final segment that he did is that he brought out a little person dressed as Danielson, and beat him up. But the discussion that was had and what led to his firing is that he beat the little person up too much.
Cripes.
And that's what got him fired, and then the program with Danielson was completely dropped.
Yeah.
And that was his last thing he ever did in WWE.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I suppose you could carry that on if you wanted to. I probably would steer clear. I'd probably do your own thing if it were me.
I'd probably do my own thing as well.
I'm interested as well. That's a really good point that you brought up about be fully done with wrestling. There's the idea of being done in ring, but that doesn't mean you have to step away from the business entirely. What frustrated him with being the SmackDown GM was sort of sitting at ringside and seeing all of these people do the thing that he loved and
not doing it as well as him.
And not doing it as well as him, but also he'd started going to doctors and healing himself and doing the work he could, and getting to a point where several doctors were happy clearing him. So that was a big frustration for him. He felt like he could still go. If this is more on his terms and he's like, my body is a bit knackered, I broke my arm in the middle of a match, I've had a concussion last year on top of the concussions I've had recently, I would like to wrap things up in a nice, neat bow. That's a very different beast than having it taken from you.
Absolutely.
So, and knowing that Tony Khan has spoken about, I think his line was like, and this is smacks of Tony Khan hyperbole, of like, if I was hit by a bus tomorrow, I'd say, hand it to Danielson. Like he's instructed his father to give it to Bryan, which is hilarious to think about. But like that shows how, and there are all the reports that Danielson has creative input into Collision, so
and has been for a while. Like in AEW, et al. Has been sort of quite heavily leaned upon in terms of creative directions.
So like there's definitely an avenue for him there if he wants to take it.
Let's get into the show itself. We kicked off with the usual promos and stuff from Samoa Joe, Penta, Roddy, and Darby, because they were having their World Title Eliminator Tournament matches.
Semi-final Saturday.
Exactly. And then we kicked things off with the International Championship match with Jon Moxley defending against Action Andretti. So, I love that Mox, like Cassidy before him, is defending this on every show he possibly can. Like he defended it on Dynamite, he's defending it on Collision, he'll be defending it again against Big Bill on Dynamite. That is what the international title should be feeling like. This workhorse championship that the TNT title no longer feels like.
Yeah,
this is now a proper big secondary title within AEW.
I mean, hey, got a main event of a show.
Yeah, and deservedly so as well, because I thought that Cassidy did such good work with that belt.
There's a little part of me that's like be a heel and never defend it. In full contrast to Orange Cassidy, that I do agree with you though. I do like the.
And I feel like because Mox has got so much respect, like, you know, kayfabe wise, he's got so much respect for Cassidy because of what he had to do to put him away. It's like, well, the legacy of this belt now needs to have the same treatments.
It doesn't make sense for Mox to hold it and not defend it. Like, that's not who Jon Moxley is.
Exactly. He bloody loves to fight people. But yeah, it was weird to watch Mox sell so much because he was, you know, the babyface in this match, and it was weird to just watch Action Andretti work over him for during the, you know, during the ad breaks and stuff. But they were really putting over. This was his third match in a week because he had All Out, then Dynamite, and now Collision, then again on Dynamite. And already, I love this. They're telling this story. Already he's taking damage. Because Orange Cassidy's title run, and what made that run so special, it was every match, HP was just diminishing and diminishing. A bit more tape, a bit more. And they were talking about here, because Andretti was working over the leg, he's taken damage to the leg.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be going into his match on Wednesday, not as fit as he was going into that first match on Sunday. I love that as a story. He's doing the exact same thing that Cassidy did.
Yeah, I love that as a story too. I didn't love this match, and I didn't love Andretti being in it. Because he comes, and I like Andretti very much, but he comes out, and his little name scroll there says AEW wins and losses record 7-7. So currently he's won 7 and lost 7, so his current score is 0. And I'm like, well, what gets you to the front of the line? Like, you know, why were you picked?
All comers. He's like defending against AR Fox. Sure. And I think he's got a worse win-loss record than Action Andretti has.
I just didn't. I also wrote here, like, I only really brought that up because Nigel said it immediately. At the start of the match, he's like, you know, you got that win over Jericho, but you have to follow it up, and he hasn't, kind of thing. And I was like, well, that's not selling him as a challenger to Jon Moxley. And then they get 11 minutes, during which time, good work from them both, by the way, because you obviously hometown hero, Bizarro World, you flip over. And I thought Andretti, especially there was the moment he was sort of kicking him in the head, was leaning into that kind of heel work really well. It was weird. It didn't work for me. I just was like, oh, okay, that was a match. There was a moment where he did a dive to the outside. Do you remember when, like, Mauro Ranallo used to be like, Tope Suicida? Kevin Kelly fully just went, Tope Suicida there, and then we move on to something, and I was like, oh, it just doesn't mean anything.
It's just a move now.
It's fully just a move. Nobody pops for it anymore. So yeah, it just was not for me.
This was a match that it's story over actual in-ring action. Because the in-ring action was fine. It was totally fine. But the story coming out of the other side of it, I'm like, that's worth it.
And I do agree with you there.
Roderick Strong, speaking of stories, told one about him and Adam Cole, the history between them. And this was awesome because Roderick Strong's new character is just awesome. And the shot of him sat there and Bennett and Taven behind him, but at different heights on different chairs, like it's Christmas dinner around your nan's house, and no one's on the same level of furniture.
Yeah,
and they were just behind him, just like hand on his shoulder, just solemnly
every now and again
nodding,
closing his Velcro on his neck brace.
Oh, I love the detail they got. Neck strong, like doing the neck brace stuff, and he's telling me, he's like, I'm going to win this tournament, but I won't be happy until I get my friend back. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I also find it really interesting, just as a production and a note about the way the show is being put together, AEW in general, by the way, is that this was always the focus when they first opened up the show was about, it was, it's sporting. We're going to lean more into the sports side than into the entertainment side kind of thing. And now between this and Tony Storm, the sports entertainment stuff has always been there, but they're really leaning into it. And honestly, for me as a fan of, I do like that style of presentation of wrestling. I'm loving it.
The argument's always been is that wrestling should be like an ice cream parlor with lots of different flavors.
Yeah.
If you go into an ice cream parlor and all they're serving you is mint choc chip, you're going to get pretty sick of mint choc chip after a while. What you want is vanilla, chocolate, butterscotch, fudge. And that's why I think a lot of people really like about AEW is that it is a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Like you can have we get, later on, Lucha Libre, six-man action. You can have your serious technical wrestling. You can have your New Japan strong style matches. You can have your sports entertainment. You can have your comedy. It is a smorgasbord of different styles as opposed to just being one flavor of ice cream.
It's what WCW did so well at the beginning of it. Bringing in the luchas and bringing in the Japanese wrestlers as well.
It's what people have always had a pop with WWE. And like, granted, they don't do this as much now because they have adapted quite needing to as well, I would say. But they went through a period of time for like 15 years where everyone had the same match.
Yeah.
Everyone wrestled the same style because there was a WWE style and everyone had to do that.
And I think it's in the name of balance. And to be fair, I think when you go like last week's Raw, for instance, and you finish with that Gable and Gunther match, and it's like, imagine that on an episode of Raw in like 2004.
Could have blown people's minds
fully. And it's this is the reason that you'll never find me being like one versus the other is because they both, by AEW going, we will lean into the sort of WWE sports entertainment style sometimes, and WWE raising their game in terms of in-ring competition. I get to have both.
And that's it.
Tee-hee.
It's a smorgasbord and everyone's excited.
Yeah.
Up next for the TBS Championship, another open challenge. It was Chris Statlander versus Robyn Renegade, and Statlander won.
Robyn's gear makes it look like Tony said, crap, we need a challenge for Stat. Go to the Sephora and pick two women who are shopping and bring them in. That's what they made them look like. Like, she's wearing jeans. She's wrestling in jeans.
Wearing jeans. John Cena wrestled in jorts.
I'm just going to go back to that bit where you said there's nothing wrong with. And I've just realized you're wearing jorts.
I'm wearing jorts at the moment.
That's what it is. Hey, there you go. They had a match, didn't they?
They sure did. I mean, this was less about the match.
Bad.
No, it was totally fine.
Yeah.
This was less about the match and more about the post-match return, which was Jade Cargill.
And oh, how we popped. I had a big... You were next to me when I watched it.
I did. You did not know this was coming.
No, I didn't.
And you had a big old reaction for Jade Cargill. She came down to make the save. And
it
looked like she was kind of almost going to be on Chris's side here. But lifted up, hit her with the Jaded, and posed with the belt. It's great to see Cargill back. And
she looked amazing.
It totally makes sense to put her back into that TBS.
Yeah.
I know there are some people who are like, I wanted her to mix it up with the AEW women's division. But it's like, well, if character-wise, she should be pissed off that Chris Statlander showed up and stole that belt from her. It was a very underhanded thing for Chris Statlander to do. And I think it was a bad choice. I said it at the time. I still feel it. It should have happened in a match on Collision, on the first Collision. But that's not the choice they went with. Instead, they went with that one. So Jade has a right to be pissed. She has a right to be pissed, so she wants that belt back. So it totally makes sense to put her back into that position.
I do, however, feel bad now for Diamante, for Mercedes Martinez, and for Willow Nightingale, all three of whom were involved in a little program with Chris Statlander in a sort of tag teamy, loose alliance competition that was, starting to find its feet, like getting a little, they had a couple of stop-starts, but they were working on it and they developed it for a few weeks. And then, we're doing Ruby and Chris Statlander are all out. Have we confirmed that? Yeah. So don't worry about that. We can have women's matches on the shows, said to Tony. And it was like, so are you going to pick that up at any point? And here we are. And the answer is no. And so I feel a bit pissed for them.
I feel really bad for them because it felt like the Ruby match at All Out was done just because Ruby had debuted at All Out 2 years previous or 3 years previous, or whatever.
And yet they had the Owen, match together. But like, you're in the middle of a story. Tell that one.
Yeah.
Have Mercedes Martinez versus Chris Statlander at All Out. Like,
but she didn't debut at All Out 2 years ago, so
it doesn't matter.
So you can't do that storyline, Dan. Come on, mate. Think about it for just 2 seconds, will you?
It's tradition. You're right. Tradition.
Tradition, Dan. Tradition. Yeah. Trump story.
So yeah, that was the thing where and it's like clearly it's like, oh well, I guess they're not there anymore. That's got on my nerves.
Yeah, unless they just have their match, but it's more of a stepping stone to get back to Jade.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Ruby Soho was backstage with Saraya being interviewed by Renee, freaking out about Toni Storm, with Saraya saying, no, she's okay. She's lost her mind. We just need to knock some sense into her, which I think is a fun bit. And Saraya said that she's going to re-debut at Grand Slam, which is where she made her debut this time last year. But this time she's going to be walking in as champion and will leave as such.
I think Saraya needs a few trips back to England more because her accent really settled in this. So she has that weird sort of like half American, half English accent that doesn't sound like anything she's saying makes sense or is good. So here, she kind of had settled back into being English a bit. And I was like, this is one of the best promos I've seen from you in a really long time. I really liked it. More of you coming home then.
I was thinking about this earlier today, but when she did the press conference after All In, she looked so uncomfortable holding onto that belt, like it was constantly slipping off her shoulder. And I was like, I feel you, mate, because people have that same issue with our belt when they hold on to it.
Hey, I've got great shoulders for it.
Yeah.
So I'll hold it for years.
Tony Schiavone, one of my favorite segments of the whole show. Tony Schiavone sat down with Claudio and Eddie. I love Eddie Kingston so much. He's the man. And Claudio's awesome. And Claudio, Tony Schiavone's there just being like, where do these issues stem from? And Eddie's like, Claudio knows. And Claudio's just like, I don't know what the issues are. I don't know where this stems from. And Eddie's like, you know exactly what it is that you did. You left the Indies knowing that you weren't going to do the business that you were supposed to do. And he really wants this Ring of Honor title shot. Grand Slam in front of his parents. And I'm going to do it. I want this title so bad, I'll put my own title on the line. We'll do it title for title. I have to win this, but I'm going to do it in front of my parents and stuff. And Claudio then just has I love that. It was like, I'll sell some tickets. Do it title for title. I love the way that Eddie just phrases things. And Claudio just says when I win, I want that handshake that you owe me. And Eddie just blurts out, you do remember. You know exactly what this is all about. You're just playing out that it's not. And then Claudio walks off. Eddie, annoyed, sort of walks off as well. And Tony Schiavone's like, thank you, Eddie. And Eddie just replies, thank you, my ass.
I didn't like this segment.
Whoa, damn! Here's some chips. Do you want to have a little quick piss on them?
It just was, I can completely understand why you did, and I can completely understand why I would be massively in the minority on this, but it felt a little bit for me like when you're doing improv with your partner and they just off on one, and Claudio couldn't really say anything before, and he was shouting at him, and I was like,
he's passionate, man.
Yeah, but you can be passionate
so much to him.
Yeah, but it's stepping over, which is deeply ironic for some people who say that either I or you constantly step over each other, or it's just how a conversation goes. But in this case, it did feel a lot like there was a lot of Claudio couldn't quite get to where he wanted to get to because...
I just disagree. Claudio never wanted to say anything.
Okay.
Because Claudio, he knows exactly what it is, but it isn't. This whole storyline has been built around Eddie will not let this go.
Right.
For him, this means the world. This issue that he has with Claudio means everything to him. For Claudio, it was just Tuesday. And it means absolutely nothing to him in the long run.
I had a feeling I would be on my own in this one.
So, Eddie's anger and passion is completely counter to Claudio not caring. He just wants to beat Eddie up again and pin him again because all that'll do is just wind Eddie up even more. I love the dynamic that these two have. And the difference then in the terms of the two promos that they were cutting, which is Claudio just being like, yeah, fine, we'll do this.
So that's...
And Eddie just being like, I need this.
That sounds great. I just didn't feel that when I was watching it. And I think that this sounds like that's a me thing from the way that I took as a performer. I was like, just let him get his sentence out before you have your clap back. There's an art to it, but hey, I'm probably on my own, and I'm all right with that.
I mean, we can always do a poll.
Nah.
No, I mean, I'm more curious.
I don't need 98% of people to tell me I'm wrong.
I mean, there is just one comment that's been like, well, Dan does like The Miz. So, I mean, if Mod Mother, if you are watching, let's do a poll. Was this segment good? Or was it bad?
It probably was.
We'll find out. You might be surprised
when you do an improv session. It's like again. It goes back to the story of the Mox thing being more effective for me than the match. The story that you've just given me in that is more effective than what I felt the segment was. Personally.
Next, I'm gonna bollocks up some of this, but I'll try my best. It was Bullet Club Gold versus Gravity, Aerostar, and Dios del Inframundo.
Yeah.
Inframundo.
That's Italian, not Spanish. I don't know.
Inframundo.
Yeah.
It was Drago from Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
So we've got the poll is up. See, it's already not as high as you think it's going to be.
It's still going to be over like... It's not going to be 50-50 booking, is it?
But yeah, it was your man from Lucha Underground. I feel like Kevin Kelly in this match, where he was like, this match is really showing my lack of Spanish.
Right, yeah, he said that he had a friend who like gave him a load of info.
It was Lucha Blog.
Yeah,
it was a couple of shout outs to Lucha Blog in this in this match, where it was like, I reached out to Lucha Blog and they were very helpful in telling me about these individuals here. Gravity did your least favorite spot in the world of wrestling, where he just does the walk down to the ring.
It's one of my least favorite spots, yeah, I will say.
As someone pointed out in the comments, there is still gravity on the moon, Dan. If you walk on the moon, that is how you walk.
For the audio listeners, that was the world's biggest eye roll. I thought the action here was lovely.
It was great, wasn't it? It was great fun.
However, there were a few times.
Dan!
No. There's a few times, and this is not like a ding or whatever. This is just like there's a few times in this where I'm like, who does that move hurt more? Because Gravity.
That's Lucha Libre,
well, this
all
is
right,
it.
writ
so
large.
Gravity did at one point this amazing like elevated stunner where I'm like, that's got to have done far more damage to your tailbone than it did to
Absolutely,
Juice.
yeah.
Like, and it was but I mean, I loved it, and I like Bullet Club Gold very much.
It was.
Do you know they've like won for months now?
Yeah, they are on an absolute
tear,
and they were putting that over on commentary, just being like they got the winner all out, they got the winner all in.
Yeah.
Like they're winning on Collision all the time. Like they are racking up win after win after win. It's great to see, like, because I think that the Collision's done wonders for this group. Not just Juice Robinson, but like the Guns as well.
Yeah,
this was supposed
to
be
Tempest was okay with the Guns on All Out.
So this was supposed to be an 8-man. But Jay White couldn't be onto the show for personal reasons, I believe was the quote given. So it ended up being a trios match instead. Andrade was watching on from backstage, upset that the Luchas lost.
Except when they cut back to him, he was smiling.
And then when he was smiling, and then went,
Bit of acting there.
But it was a lot of fun, this match.
Yeah.
Because it was flip-de-doos, and then the heels won. I had a great time with it. I also really like this next segment. I really enjoyed CJ Perry's promo.
One of my favorite bits on the show.
She talked about how she was the first victim of Miro's road to redemption. Like, there's this whole idea of him renouncing God and renouncing his hot and flexible wife. And she mentioned that she was once the hottest manager in all of wrestling.
Not untrue.
And maybe it's time to be that again.
I loved this performance from her. I thought
great promo.
She really delivered it in spades. Like the delivery felt natural in an unnatural setting. It felt like she's gone off. She's an actress. She's done acting classes as well, so she's clearly leaning into that and using those. But she did a spectacular job. Love her being a part of this story. All the conversation is that she's on a short-term deal.
Yeah.
Tony Khan is a little bit like when you start dating a girl. And but you don't want to give up your bachelor life because he keeps like, oh yeah, we'll see if it turns into something. Like, no.
I mean, the way he phrased it sounded like it was a one-night surprise.
I resent, and I'm going to use that word, that they haven't given her a name yet. And I don't even feel like it's part of a story. Call her CJ. Call her Claudia Jean, for all I care. Just give her a name. At least give her the grace of a name. There's something about referring to her as that woman and this woman, which feels like
that's
weird.
Part of it, right?
Is it?
Well, yeah, it must be.
But it's his hot and flexible wife. We know who she is. We as an audience generally know who she is. They've already told us that this is his wife. Couldn't she not have a name? I don't mean to be John Proctor in The Crucible, but like...
I don't understand the reference.
Have you not seen The Crucible?
No.
It's amazing. It's a wonderful play. But at the end of it, basically, he's like, they have to sign his name that he's a witch, bad man, is in Salem. And he's like, he won't sign his name. And they're like, we've confessed to all your crimes. Why won't you sign your name? And because he's obviously not a witch because they ain't real. Sorry, spooky month. But he's like, give me my name because it's my name. It's the only thing I have left in my life. And Daniel Day-Lewis plays him in the film, and he gives a full toothy performance. It's wonderful.
You should have made a Prisoner reference instead.
What's that?
Oh, come on. You must have seen The Prisoner.
I'm not taking crap from you not knowing The Crucible. And then you tell me
I'm not taking crap from you not knowing The Prisoner. Oh. I am not a number. I'm a man.
When did The Prisoner come out?
I think like the 80s.
So like 30 odd years after The Crucible.
Might have been late 70s.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, but no, I just would like it to have a name. And it's also like NB, the men have a full several weeks long tournament for their world title, and the women have a 4-way match for their...
No, but Tony Khan doesn't care about women.
This is what I'm saying.
But I don't think those two things are mutually exclusive. Like, I don't think like the fact that they haven't given CJ Perry a name yet is the same as he doesn't care about women's wrestling.
Why?
Because I think they're telling a story here.
I don't think having a name holds the story. I think she should have a name. Also, it's dehumanizing to not have a name. And it's dehumanizing to not have a name, and she walks out and it says hot and flexible. It reduces her entirely.
That's clearly her, though.
No,
like, that's clearly her working.
Why can't she have that and a name?
But she changed her name on Twitter to Meat Lover.
Which is hilarious.
Because like they're playing up to this.
So why can't she have it? She just give her a name.
Well, Dan, you never know. You tune into the show, you'll find out what it is. Maybe it's going to be part of a deal. Maybe she's actually going to turn out her name is Meat Lover, and that's what she's going to be called on TV. All I'm saying, Dan, is that I don't think this is as big of a deal as a woman's fatal 4-way match just being this really reductive thing that's happening on Dynamite. I think she should have a name. I think she deserves to have a name. Anyway, it was a great promo.
It was a brilliant promo.
Which you can't say about the Dark Orders commercial, which was totally fun. And I had a proper laugh at the Acclaim doing a world tour, which is all in the Midwest of America.
I wrote the same thing. Their trios title was won on international ground, which is more than you can say for the international title.
Look, it's the same as the World Series of Baseball, which is nothing but North American teams. And then we had more lucha action as Fenix took on Angelico in a more fun match, with Fenix saying that he was going to get revenge on John Moxley because Moxley put him in the hospital, made him miss All In, not visa issues. Fun match. Fenix won.
I loved this. I really enjoyed this match, and it was because there is some lucha style that gets on my wick a little bit, and some of it that I absolutely adore. So I'm thinking of like Commander, or thinking of Vikingo. When Commander runs the ropes and it doesn't really mean anything, it's just showing off that you can. I hate that I sound a bit Jim Cornette when I'm doing this, but like
you do a little bit.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'll work on the impression.
Hating on fun.
I don't hate fun. How could you?
The anti-lucha house party.
I'm the lucha house. Come on, wrap it up. It's 10 p.m. Off we go.
Dan hates to have fun.
Famously, I don't like fun. What I love is when you use that, like in this match, Fenix like ran across the ropes to just absolutely behead Serpentico, and I loved it.
Serpentico.
What did I say?
Serpentico.
Potato.
Let's call the whole thing off.
Anyway, what I was saying about Fenix was that I really liked. I just really liked the offense. And there was something about the grounding and the power of it all that made it all feel like I just love it. I love him. I think he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I liked the match so much.
Tony Schiavone interviewed FTR, who they've beaten the best in terms of, they've even beaten their equals in the Young Bucks. So what they want to do now is have a bit of some open challenge stuff.
It's open challenge season on AEW.
They want some of these younger teams to step up and show if they can hang with the top guys.
Now, young tag teams. Do you think that was just rhetoric, or is that like specifically they're opening the door to young tag teams?
It feels like it's to give tag teams who aren't getting shot to the tag titles some exposure on TV. Like next week, it's FTR versus the Iron Savages.
Yeah, I can't wait for, by the way.
Iron Savages have had quite a bit of like TV time, but that TV time has benefited them to the position now where it's like when they get in, it's like, oh, cool, the Iron Savages are having a match because we're really enjoying their work at the moment. I think that's what it's for. We'll probably have one with Darius and Andretti, because you know, as it's like sort of these young tag teams that are just like, this is a way for them to get some TV exposure in a title match, and I think it could be nothing but a good thing. Where it leads to, I don't know. You know, who is the person to answer this? I'd like it to lead to an Aussie Open program, because I've seen FTR and Aussie Open have matches, and they were incredible.
I bet so.
Because Aussie Open rule, and FTR are one of the greatest tag teams on the planet. So yeah, I think this could be quite exciting. Where it leads to, I don't know though. I absolutely loved Roderick Strong versus Darby Allin. Why wasn't this the main event of the show? Because this was way better than the actual main event that we got. I loved this so much. I loved the Kingdom hyping up Roddy as he was coming out. I loved Luchasaurus attacking Darby before he's coming out. And then Nick Wayne convincing and hyping up Darby to go out. Then AR Fox running down to have a go at Nick Wayne for why are you making Darby do this? This is not, because like you've got 3 generations of mentors here, because you've got AR Fox, who was Darby's mentor, and now you've got Nick Wayne, who is Darby's mentee. And you've got the elder statesman and AR Fox running down to tell this young pup is like, have you seen the damage that this guy is taking? Why did you make him do this? He never should be wrestling in this match. And then they have some miscommunication, and that distracts Darby enough to fall to one of my favorite gimmicks in wrestling, the Messiah of the Backbreaker. It's great to have the Messiah back on TV. And he gets the knees up off the coffin drop and goes to that back that he's been targeting to get with the win with the end of Heartbreak. I loved End of Heartache. I loved this match.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. The word neck has lost all meaning. And I'm thrilled about it. They just say neck all the time.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's like, and I'm reading the word neck, and I'm hearing the word neck, and I'm thinking of the word neck, and I'm like, neck is a stupid word. Like, you know what I mean?
Comes out with the neck brace, and then they take the neck brace off. And then and then he's so brave. He's neck strong.
Yeah.
And then he wrestles this match. And the second that it's over, Taven and Bennett race in to put the neck brace back around.
Because you got to protect it.
Got to protect it.
It's a great gimmick.
It's in all of his renders, like in his match graphics and stuff. He's wearing these dorky glasses and the neck brace. It's so good.
Yeah. And again, it's a thing where it's like, I don't know if this was I certainly don't think this was the intent when they did the angle with Joe early on. And I don't think it was the intent for this MJF Cole angle to go as long as it has. So when you get this is an example of riding the wave and doing it well. Like speaking earlier on about sometimes, you know, the booking can ride a wave and get lost. They've done really well with this, I thought. Also, there was a side slam on the top turnbuckle followed by a second bump on the apron on the way down.
I love that spot.
Like a video game character. It looked absolutely brutal.
Loved that spot.
I have a question because I think I've missed a bit and it's confused me a little bit. AR Fox left Nick Wayne lying in a pool of his own blood. It was one of the most vicious, uncomfortable, difficult watches I've had as a wrestling fan in recent years. Why are they fine now?
I don't think they are.
No, but AR Fox and Darby is.
They did a segment on Dynamite.
Where
AR Fox got kicked out of the Mogul affiliates and Darby welcomed him back with open arms because he'll always forgive his friends.
If I'm Nick Wayne, I'm pissed.
Well, I think that I think that might be an angle that we're going down.
That feels a little bit like that kind of thing where it's like, same with the TBS title, where it's like, oh, I'm kind of bored with that. I'll do this when it's dead. Whereas like, if there's an actual angle going on, the idea that Darby can accept the apology on Nick's behalf is a bit weak. But if they're gonna, and it did seem in this match like they were playing with it.
I think they are. So the hands was sort of forced against them a little bit because it was supposed to be Darby and Sting versus AR Fox and Swerver all in with those are the Mogul affiliates. And then it transpired AR Fox can't travel internationally.
Christ.
So when Tony Khan was on the media call saying there are some matches that are going to have to change, this was one of the matches that he was referring to. There was that, and Ray Fenix couldn't travel either, so we had to change the Stadium Stampede match. Although apparently that was always going to be a 5-on-5, but they announced it as a 6-on-6. I guess that you can set up this storyline of Moxley taking out Fenix so that then you can do a Fenix and Moxley angle down the line. You can say whatever you want. But this was one of the other matches that they had to change. And what they did is a hilarious segment on Dynamite where they did 2 months of storylines in one 5-minute segment.
Right. Okay.
It was literally was just like, you're at the group. You're now my friend. Christian Cage is here. Promo on your dad. And it was like, and now this is the match. It's like, oh, wait, what? Honestly, taking notes on it was exhausting.
If it happened that quick, then I don't feel too bad for missing it.
So I feel that as a way to kind of course correct on that not very good storytelling and not very good angle, is to do this sort of like, you know, generational mentor-mentee relationship story where Nick Wayne is like, Darby is always going to be cool with AR Fox no matter what he does, because he can't ever not forgive AR Fox. But Nick Wayne doesn't have that same relationship with him.
And you can take advantage of that if you're AR Fox.
Yeah. So I think there could be something interesting to be done around that.
Yeah. All right.
I'm hoping so anyway. And I hope that's actually going to be quite a good little bit of course correction, because it needs something.
Yeah,
because, because when Darby just accepted AR Fox back into the fold, everyone, and we were just on that Dynamite review being like, that makes not a
okay, so I'm not crazy.
No,
because there was a little part of me sometimes I don't like things on the AEW shows and people think I'm just a killjoy and pissing on your chips. So this one was more like, can I just check I'm not out of piece?
No,
it was weird.
It really was just a case of like, I mean, apparently AR Fox got massive heat on him as well, because he was aware that he wasn't going to be able to travel and stuff.
Yeah, you should be letting these people know this.
Didn't let people know in advance that, and so which is why he had to do this whole rushed story and stuff. So yeah, it was it didn't work out.
Right.
Hopefully this can. But I love this match. As I said, like it's I you know, I'm a Ring of Honor TNA guy, and I love Roddy. So Roddy being able to do his Messiah of the Backbreaker stuff that he was doing on the indies like all those years ago, it's just it's great to see the Messiah back. And I loved the spot, the backbreaker into the double bump. I absolutely adored. And I love the trio with him in the Kingdom. And you know what? Like, pass me my words, pass me some crow, pass me some hats, because I'm going to chomp on all of them. Because I did not get on with this Roderick Strong character.
Oh, did you not?
I thought it was too comedic. Like when he was properly being like, Adam! When Adam Cole would like go off with MJF and stuff. And he had this moment where he kicked a car wheel and he hurt his toe. And I was like, this is veering a little bit too much into comedy for my liking. Yeah, a little bit too much into silly. Yeah, I hear some crow. Nom, 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 nom. I was wrong.
Crow.
Because crow.
Crow?
Crow.
Crow?
Crow.
I don't get it.
Eating crow.
Never heard that.
Yeah. No?
No.
Okay. It's a phrase of just people like, you know, I was wrong. Nom, nom, nom. I'll eat crow. I'll eat my words.
That one I've heard. I'll eat my hat. I've never heard talking about eating crow.
I think it's the same deal.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's a statement. It's a word.
I would love it if it wasn't. I would love it if this is just your, like, if you've misheard something once and you've been saying it for 30 years. Like when you sing a lyric in a song and you don't realize it's like...
Oh, yeah. Like, it's a colloquial idiom used in some English-speaking countries that means humiliation by admitting you've been proven wrong.
What did you call me? A colloquial what? Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, eating crow. There we go. Yum, nom, nom, nom.
Admitting that you've been proven wrong.
There you go.
And I was very, very wrong.
Fabulous.
So there you go. Lexi interviewed Keith Lee, who said that he is going to make his own direction on this show.
We had a Hobbs promo as well.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really take notes right.
Yeah. Hobbs had a promo and Keith Lee had a promo. I'll wait and see.
Yeah.
The Righteous also cut a promo, and I was like, crikey, we got the
three in a row.
Well, no, it was more. The Righteous cutting a promo. It was Dark Order, heel Dark Order cutting a promo, and the Renegade twins. I was like, crikey, it's a Ring of Honor invasion up in here, because like particularly the Righteous and this heel version of Dark Order, like they've been all over Ring of Honor, as have the Renegade twins. So like all three of them now are on like doing stuff on Collision.
They packed a lot of new people into the show.
Yeah, which is quite cool.
Yeah, interesting.
Same for the Righteous.
I didn't like the close up of a tongue wagging in slow motion. That I could have done without. But you know, also good for you.
Tony Schiavone interviewed we got the Danielson segment we talked about earlier. We had Tony Schiavone interviewing Big Bill about his shot against Mox on Dynamite, and Fenix walked up to remind him that he wants to get his revenge on Moxley.
And in the segment, Tony Schiavone was talking about Big Bill and his relationship with Tony Stark, which I enjoyed very much. I had a little giggle, primarily because in the list that went up yesterday, I accidentally said Shane McMahon rather than Shane McMahon, and it's most of the comments are telling me, oh, I know. The sentence was Shane McMahon and Snoop Dogg. That's S's and D's all over the place. And it was like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And so I just said Shane McMahon, didn't notice. And only when I'm watching it back and I was like, oh. So good to know that Tony Schiavone's got a slip up in him as well.
Yeah, we've all got them.
We've all been there.
One of my first...
And thank you so much to the 100 of you who pointed it out.
One of my first news videos, one of my first big news videos I did when I started working here full time, is I went to talk about CM Punk's record-setting 434-day reign, and I just, because I've got number blindness, said 343. because I just got my numbers mixed up.
Yeah.
And boy, did people let me know.
That's almost 100 days less.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Yeah.
But it was a slip of the tongue.
Yeah. Did anyone else notice? Yes, they did.
Yeah, if you are leaving a comment on a YouTube video that says, "Am I the only one to have noticed?" You're not. Lastly, our main event, which I found like I was down on it earlier. I did very much enjoy this. It was Samoa Joe versus Penta. Enjoyed this for 2 reasons. Reason number 1: Samoa Joe did his walkaway spot, but Penta saw it coming.
Yeah.
So Penta slid out, and then he did his stalking,
like a little snake man.
His little stalking walk that he does. And then hit Joe with a sling blade. And it was awesome.
It was.
And then, reason number 2, Samoa Joe did the walkaway spot as Penta did a dive and he crashed through a table. And it was rad and awesome. And Samoa Joe is the man. And I want him to win this tournament. And I cannot wait to see him versus MJF at Grand Slam. I think it's going to be so, so good. Joe choked him out. He's awesome. He's the man. Love me Samoa Joe. This is a big day for TNA, Luke.
Oh, huge.
Because I got a Roddy win. I got a Samoa Joe win.
Christian in a backstage segment.
Oh, I had a great time.
Yeah. I didn't love this match either. So you were talking about being a little bit too down on it. It's interesting because there were a couple of really good moments in it, but the actual match itself, I do think that the Roddy and Darby one perhaps should have been the main event.
It was a better match.
It was a better match. I also think it went a little bit long, that Joe and that Roddy and Darby match, if only because it, there was the Luchasaurus interference at the beginning.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think that's a massive problem.
I think they did 2 commercial breaks as
well. They did. It felt long. Whereas this one, I actually sat forward, and if you noticed in my chair, I was like, right, here we go. I was really excited because I was in a lucha mood, and I love Samoa Joe, so I was really excited to see this contrast. And yeah, that walkaway spot was great. At one point, JR did a little Boris Johnson bus monologue about how Samoa Joe likes to drive the bus. He wants to be the conductor. He doesn't want to be on the bus. He wants to drive the bus. Look around the eyes. Don't look around the eyes. Look directly in the eyes. And then it's like, everybody has to be a passenger on the bus. And I was like, has JR got a little model of a bus that he's holding on commentary? And that's why he keeps saying it.
One of my favorite JR moments of this match is when Penta got the table out, which, if you put Joe through, that's going to cause a DQ, isn't it?
Yeah, I had a problem with that.
And you can tell that JR had a problem with it because he just went quiet. He's clearly been told, don't say anything, Jim.
Yeah.
Because Jim bloody loves to talk about things not making sense.
Well, this is interesting because I love to talk about things not making sense as well. So maybe this is why I like it when JR comes out, because it makes me feel not alone. Because when he pulls when he went through the table, right, when Penta, when he did the walkaway spot into the table, yeah, it was sick. It looked great. It was really funny. It was brilliant. Why is the table there? Because
so Penta can go through it. When
but
the
that's
walkaway spot.
Stupid.
You start with the spot and then you work your way backwards from there. And when you get to the bit, it was like, why'd you get the table out? It's like, because I'm going to go through it in a bit.
So I failed to understand why you leave me away from this. I don't like that. I like things to make sense. I love it because I find it more satisfying when the things make sense and then you follow through on it. I think that's not an uncommon feeling. However, it didn't really lift off for me, the match,
No, it didn't.
There were moments of good, moments of rad.
It was too rest holdy.
Yes, it was.
As a match.
Without any there were a lot of times I was like, are we in a commercial? No.
Yeah, and then we came, there was a moment where I was like, God, this feels like we're in a commercial break, but I didn't actually hear them say we were going to commercial break. And then all of a sudden he was like, we're back live in commercial. I was like, oh, we were in a commercial break. Yeah. That's why it was boring.
Which is so interesting because there is something about when you watch the Fight TV feed, I think we've spoken about this before, we don't get picture in picture, it just carries on, so it becomes kind of a dull experience. And I think that's why sometimes these matches feel like less good than other people who watch them with picture in picture and perhaps use the ad break to nip to the bathroom and then come back to the action, because your momentum very much is just stifled with a period of rest hold. Done little bits of jokes about JR's commentary, but at one point Kevin Kelly started talking about the longer this match goes, the more it favors Penta because Joe wins fast. And I absolutely love that kind of insight. I love the idea that Joe's conditioning isn't his strength. He loves to just knock him out and take him down fast. But if you can wear him out, you have the upper hand because your conditioning is better. For me, it's little details like that add to the suspension of disbelief. In contrast to why is he getting a table out? He'll get DQ'd. Meanwhile, the ref's counting to 10, gets to a 6 and realizes they ain't getting back in time for the 10, so I'll just stop doing the count.
Yeah.
Which happened a couple of times. It's that weird thing of you do so many things so brilliantly and then some things feel just a bit weird for me. So I've got both the really cool thing with Kevin Kelly adding to my suspension of disbelief and then cranky old JR, who I love. removing my suspension of disbelief. It's such a funny little thing.
Me and Ollie have been huge fans of Salty JR for years, because there was a period he used to do New Japan commentary.
He did,
and he does not like New Japan wrestling. And it was always so funny to see him do Salty JR New Japan commentary. Like when we used to review those New Japan matches, like, man, JR was hilarious in this. He just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wrestling in AEW that he doesn't like.
Grandpa JR.
He's proper little salty JR, and it's a delightful character. If you don't get annoyed by it, which I understand that people do.
I could completely understand if you found it annoying.
I heard that he ruined... I haven't actually watched it back, but I've heard that he ruins a lot of All In because he's just whinging about rules.
I have watched it back, that particular match, and I found that match... It's specifically the trios match, and I found it to be a difficult watch. I didn't really love it live, and watching it on telly, I didn't love it either. And JR essentially is just pointing out what I'm doing, which is like, who's the legal man? Does it matter? Yeah. And I'm afraid some people, especially fans of AEW, who are big fans of AEW, don't care. And that's their prerogative.
The action breaks down.
That's completely fine. For me, I like some form of knowing, well, that person's the legal... And do you know who does it really well? I like the Bucks and FTR. And that's a really great example within the same company, so you can't even accuse me of bias, is saying that I just like to know who is the legal man so that I can buy into the story of like, well, you're wasting your time with this person because the legal man is on the outside, or the legal man is this person, or whatever. I love that kind of... suspense in a match. So I like it. I like to at least know which, like, if you can imagine the Sims the little green triangle over someone's head. I just want to know that stuff. So JR was giving that kind of like, does it even matter? Like, why are they doing this? Like, that's what he was giving. So I can understand if some people found it really off-putting. I found it funny.
But that was the show. So it is Samoa Joe versus Roddy on Dynamite.
You've got Samoa Joe, I've got Roddy.
And you think Roddy's
I would rather Roddy win it because I think Samoa Joe, I'd love Samoa Joe to be champ. I think I'd love for Samoa Joe to have a proper program with MJF. And at the moment, they've teased the program, they've laid some seeds for a program, but there are also seeds for Roddy with Adam Cole. And that, I think, is a really genius little bit of booking.
That's why I think it's been a very smart tournament, because there's a lot of complaints about AEW tournaments, which are founded, which are that you know who's winning this tournament because they've already set up the program.
Right.
So the tournament's more just a formality, or like qualifying matches. Like it's just a formality. We know who's going into it, which and I don't mind that, because it's like, well, at least there's a reason for the matches to happen, and rather than just announcing these 4 people are going to be in a match, right? But we've got a tournament here which has got 2 potential winners. I genuinely like it because they're both in programs with MJF and Adam Cole. So I think that's a really, really nice bit of booking there. And I think you can have Joe win. You can still do Roddy versus Cole on Grand Slam.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think there's a lot of interesting things that can happen there, and I'm really excited for it.
It's fun to know that we're going to... The main event's on Dynamite?
Yes,
the finals on Dynamite. It's really exciting to go into that match knowing it could go either way. Yeah, like it's not nailed on, and that's all you want from a show like that.
Well, we have got a poll up in our live chats. Let us know what you thought of this show. I thought this was a very good edition of Collision. I thought the second half was much better than the first.
I was about to say the first hour for me was like broadly fine.
It was totally fine.
The second hour I was into it.
Yeah, really into that second hour. We've got some Patreon shout-outs for you special people over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. This coming Wednesday, it will be WrestleTalk Behind the Scenes. Making his debut on WrestleTalk Behind the Scenes, it's the Professor Dan Layton.
Can't escape me. I won't let them.
And we talk a lot about All In Weekend, the shows we went to, some behind the scenes stuff of us going to those shows and hanging out with people. We also talk about Mark Marcus, friend of yours.
My friend Mark, is a difficult guy to know, but he's it's interesting to talk about him, try and help people understand him a bit more. And we go into Survival Series.
Oh yeah, we talk a lot about that AEW Survival Series episode,
which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that'll be out this coming Wednesday over at Patreon. And if you didn't see our announcement that we had made, Terry Funk's WrestleFest 97 won the Patreon poll.
Oh wow, okay.
Which is a great thing to do with Terry's passing. That is a wonderful, because that was his retirement show.
Sure.
The main event of Terry versus Brett and stuff, and it was like a big, wonderful show to do.
But it was getting hold of the footage.
Unfortunately, it's not on the network.
Right.
And the whole gimmick behind WrestleTalk Extra is that everyone is able to watch it.
Yes, it shouldn't be something you have to seek.
Yeah, it shouldn't be like available on YouTube, on Daily Motion, or on the network, or Impact Plus. Watch Ring of Honor. whatever it is, Fight TV, as long as it's available to watch, we will do it. But it's not available on any of those streaming platforms. So we made the decision that instead, we are going to be doing ECW Barely Legal. It's from the same year, and it is ECW's first pay-per-view, and it's built around Terry Funk. So we thought that would be a really nice make-do for not being able to do WrestleFest.
And there's also a really interesting little bit of spice recently, which is that WWE have trademarked Barely Legal. So, maybe we'll make a little comeback.
Yeah, and it's a fun show anyway, because it's a show that I watched so much when I was a teenager. Like, that was one of the VHSs that me and my mates just ran through, because we're like, oh, look at this RVD guy, he's so cool. Look at these Dudley boys, they're so cool. Particularly the Eliminators. I loved the Eliminators. Saturn and Cronus, they just murdered dudes, and it was awesome. So yeah, really excited to talk about that. Plus my boy Ravenseye. Stevie Richards in the semi-main. So we'll be doing that as WrestleTalk Extra. So head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get involved with that. And if you're one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out on the show like these fine folks. The singing luchador, Joseph Santana.
The heir to the throne, Kate Ayres.
Stella, Keller O'Brien.
Always leave the crowd wanting, Brian Moore.
Pick him up, Loot Sponge.
Lord Chris Zanto.
Too lot to handle, Lottie McClough.
Manipulating, Manny Umaria.
The needs of the Manny Cornish outweigh the needs of the few.
How do you like them apples, Marcel Dura?
Have a glass of sherry, Martel J. Simmons.
And the real boss, Matt Robinson.
That is your Hall of Fame class for the 11th of September, 2023. Thank you all so much for backing us over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Let's get into the rest of your Stark Remarks or Bang Bang Chats, as has also been... So Greg's Ramblings was the person behind Stark Remarks, and Silent Spider is the person behind the Bang Bang Chats. So there you go. Gerald Hazelwood says, Danielson is Goku. He has his hero traits, but what he cares most about is proving that he's the best at fighting. If he happens to be heroic while doing so, it's more by accident than design. I've never seen the show.
What's Goku?
I think that's Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, okay. I thought it maybe was like a Japanese term, like for... like a wrestling team.
No, I think he's a character from Dragon Ball. I don't know a lot about Dragon Ball. All I know is that in the summer of 1999, my cousin was playing through Final Fantasy VII, and he'd renamed every character after characters from Dragon Ball.
Right.
And one of them was called Trunks, which I found very funny.
I bet we could ask Holly Musgraves. Almost certainly.
Oh, yeah. 100% she'll know.
Yeah.
Jared Hazelwood. Oh, no, I just did that one. Dex Baker here says, if Tony Khan doesn't give us Swerve and Danielson as the main event at the Seattle show before the end of this run, it's a very good idea. Also, I wasn't on the Dynamite show. Huge thumbs up for a program between Swerve and Hangman Page.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. When I was watching the show and Swerve came out, I jumped out of my chair. We have got the result of our poll. Was the Claudio and Eddie segment good? No was 18%.
That's actually more than I thought.
That's what I mean, dude. That's what I'm saying. It's the same with the...
Silent minority.
It's the same with the Miz segment last week.
Yeah.
I was expecting this for the Miz segment last week, but it ended up being more 50-50. I was really surprised about. Metal Pulse says, will the best friends ever win gold?
Maybe they're part of the little open challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. They could be. I wouldn't call them a young tag team, but you certainly could do it.
That's why I was thinking if it's rhetoric. Because Edge and Christian.
Well, I actually saw someone in the chat as well. Quite a few people said it could lead to a Grizzled Young Vets match as well.
Hello.
Because they're probably going to be gone from the company soon enough. I could see the winning trios gold maybe at some point. Golden Knight says, hey, Luke and Prof. So it looks like we're going full Groundhog Day with Jade after her turn. Why bring her back if you're just going to recycle her run before she left? Don't get me wrong, I love Jade, but after Saturday, I'm getting Charlotte Flair vibes. That is so unnecessarily harsh.
I feel like it's not so much recycling as it is just being like, she's got a right to come back and complain.
This is one story.
Yeah.
And she got the belt stolen away from her. She wants that belt back. This is hardly Charlotte Flair returns, wins the belt, lol, which has been done 15 times over.
Yeah.
I think that's a very big comparison. El Jefe says, hello, Dan. Hello, Luke. El Jefe, aka Elijah here. Are you excited for Wrestle Dream? And Luke, do you think the Swerve is right? I always think Swerve is right, even if it is against Hangman Page, who's my boy. And of course, Wrestle Dream, Yeah, when they announced it, I was like, man, another pay-per-view. That's another weekend.
Right.
But they announced Zach versus Danielson, and I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about
I'm not going to complain about that. Big MGM said, Toni Storm used her rematch clause to get into the match at All In, but Shida, as the former champion, has to qualify. Now Storm, despite being pinned, gets a number one contenders match, but Shida, who should have had a rematch clause, must qualify for her match. Why? Big MGM, there's a very simple answer to that question. Tony Khan doesn't care.
Tony Khan simply doesn't care.
Yeah, that's a real... it's an easy... If you've ever got a question about the women's division as to why it doesn't make sense, the answer is always, he doesn't care.
Yeah. And it's like... this is what we talk about when we talk about... Not to go on a woke rant, but this is what we talk about when we talk about people having voices in the room. It's not about like making sure that you're ticking a box. Tony Khan doesn't care about women, probably because Tony Khan isn't a woman and doesn't
and he's a stats-driven man. And stats have shown but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is.
Because you don't give them enough TV time, so they don't get over. They don't sell as much merchandise, and you're like, well, they don't sell as much merchandise, then they're not over because they weren't given TV time.
So this frustrates me as well, and it's part of the whole hardcore country nonsense where the idea that and chanting the meat during the All Out match, you could argue is akin to the hardcore country, but as you did point out, that was more like being involved in the match rather than going into business for themselves.
Everyone was involved in the joke. In the same way at the start of hardcore country,
I wasn't chanting it.
Everyone was involved in the joke.
Because it was like, well, and we were thrilled to see Mickie James. The thing is, the women get one match on a match that otherwise has 7, 8, sometimes even 9 men's matches. If it was a question of there were 4 women's matches and one of them, the chant of hardcore country, was going the whole way through, kind of would be a different question. But it was their one opportunity and it's taken advantage of. And it is that thing of, Tony Khan doesn't seem to care. It's almost like booking it on the fly just to put it in there. There's your women's match. Anyway, let's get back to my boy action figures. He literally just cares more about his boy action figures. And it grates on me. And it's this thing where, in the All In, I can't speak to it because I wasn't there, but you were there. The All In press conference, there was that one question about it, which was from one of a few women in the room, the only person of color in the room, according to her. So, it's this thing of like, when you don't have those, and then the question got bantered off about, and it was such an easy question to answer, by the way. Will we see more women's matches in a pay? Will we see more than one women's match in a pay-per-view? It's so easy to lie. It's so easy to say, you know what, I would love to do that. The show tonight was, we had to run to time. There's a very strict curfew. And I would love to work hard to make sure that we can get, more opportunities, la, la, la. Just, that's all you have to say. And you don't even have to back it up necessarily. I would hope that you would, but you don't have to. So, yeah, it's a real frustrating thing. And I thought that answer that he gave was very revealing. And to your point, it kind of answers every question you ever have about the women's division not making any sense. There's a lack of interest. And the only way it's fixed is by getting more voices in that room.
Fenix, he also bantered off my question about rebooking Stadium Stampede.
He did do that.
Yeah. He bantered off a lot of questions. Which is why, people I've spoken to are like, I might not do these press conferences anymore.
But to pivot away from, can we see more women's matches in a pay-per-view, to talk about Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs, that's Olympic levels of back.
Oh yeah, totally is.
Yeah. So,
because it clearly is not.
It's not his interest.
It's not a priority for them,
and it should be. And that annoys me.
Andy Sandbox here said the Grand Slam tournament will last 7 days, 4 shows. How do we feel about the idea behind a tournament happening this quickly? Does it change opinions about who is in the tournament, and do you think that there should be longer tournament formats? Continuing the thought, I'd love to see a Battle of LA style 3-day tournament over Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday pay-per-view format. And it's a great opportunity if AEW is serious about more pay-per-views. Give me Bowler at the Forum. I've not got a problem with short tournaments, long tournaments, as long as the tournaments have a reason. I don't mind it.
I'm just like, get on with it. Wimbledon happens every other day.
Yeah, this thing, I saw people having a pop at what was the point of having qualifying matches to get into the women's 4-way at All In? I was like, to give the matches stakes.
Yeah.
And surely that's better than just saying, here are 4 people, they're going to have a match today.
Yeah, I agree.
Going back, a number of years, there was a period of time when WWE was just like, here are the 7 people in Money in the Bank. I was like, why? Why these 7? But now they've gone back to doing qualifying matches. Now all of a sudden, matches on TV have structure. They've got a purpose. They've got a reason. It's the same as qualifying matches to get into a fatal 4-way, or it's qualifying matches in a tournament.
And there are layers to that as well. Like the idea of it's a fatal 4-way for who gets to face Saraya. I'd rather that and also Nyla Rose gets something on TV, and some other people get a bit of TV time. That's good. That is good than what used to happen, where it was like, here are all the divas at once, and who will win this 20-second battle royal, and now we have this match. Like, there are layers to all of that. I'm all right with a tournament getting shift on.
Right, well, let's end the poll and see what you thought of this episode. Very, very positive reaction to this episode. More positive than I was actually expecting, but, that's the strength of Eddie Kingston. Thumbs down, 3%, middle, 15%, and 81% thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm about here, so that scans with how I feel.
I was about I was more in the mid than I was upwards. But yeah, it's good stuff. We'll be back tomorrow, myself and Dan Layton, reviewing WWE Raw, which has got one match
Certainly
announced.
Got some matches on it.
No, it's got one match announced.
Yeah.
And it is...
No idea.
I know we're going to hear from Cody, and we're going to hear from Gunther. But there is a match that was also announced. I cannot think what it is.
I'll tell you right now as I go to WWE.com. It is
Rhea Ripley and
Raquel.
It's the title match, the world title match. That's right. So, and there's also...
Cody returns to Raw. Imperium to hold Intercontinental title, something or other. Oh, that's just belts. Intercontinental title celebration for the ring General Gunther, who is officially the longest reigning of all time.
Yeah. There you go. So that'll be Raw tomorrow. We'll be back here on the WrestleTalk Podcast at the same time, same bat channel. Please do press the subscribe button if it's your first time here and you've made it this far. Leave a comment down below what you thought, and make sure you press that thumbs up before you click off this video. Until then, I've been the Cone DAD, and that has been the Professor Dan Layton.
With a very strong shoulder.
Jam that jam.